Hi, welcome to the Stories Beside channel. Enjoy watching. Nikolai Ivanovich adjusted his jacket and sat in the back seat of the Mercedes. The driver carefully pressed the gas. The car slowly drove in the direction of its usual parking lot. Quiet jazz came out of the speakers. The man was deep in thought. He had to tell his daughter that he had found the perfect match for her and that she would soon meet her future husband. Yeah, that would be something. Oksana never differed in obedience, and Nicholas himself easily managed with 100 subordinates, and even had a reputation as a strict manager. But to coexist with the character of his own daughter was beyond him. Her mother would have been proud of her if she were alive. Soon the car stopped at the gate of a 2-story mansion. Nikolai Ivanovich did not decide at what moment it was better to tell his daughter about everything. Probably best to do it after dinner. Usually before a meal, she was in a much more nervous mood than after. When he entered Oksana's house, there was no sign of her. Apparently, was minding her own business. Nikolai Ivanovich breathed a sigh of relief and gave his housekeeper's jacket. "Nicholas, good evening. Dinner will be served in half an hour." The woman shagged her coat and hung it up in the check room. "Thank you, Claudia." Oksana, at her place, she hardly went out today. Barely got her to eat lunch. "Well, that's good, at least something." The man smirked bitterly. Changing his clothes, he went down to the table. Claudia, as promised, had already laid dinner. Oksana was not yet visible. So Nikolai Ivanovich went to the stairs to the second floor and shouted to his daughter to come down. A few minutes later, the skinny figure of the girl appeared. She was wearing athletic tights and sizeless fatty with the emblem of one of the best universities in the country, where she used to study. "Oksana, well, what kind of look do you have as a teenager? And you've already graduated. Maybe you should wear something more feminine." "Oh, Dad, don't start. You know this is much more comfortable. You could try something simpler from your costumes too, by the way. How am I going to show my face like this in public? What will they think of me? I'm going to go begging." The man laughed. "Well, you say the same thing. Come on, you're a dinosaur. Modern businessmen don't wear anything solid in jeans, and that doesn't stop them from making 1 billion. It's all empty. Sit down to eat, I want to, and please put the phone away. I'm reading an interesting article here. They say soon we're all going to be eating candles, perfect worms. They're gonna make flour out of them. That's the way it is. The whole world already understands that you can't eat meat." The girl moved a dense bowl toward her and forked over a few leaves. "Look, I did not turn into a rabbit. And you will love me if I become a rabbit. Don't be silly. Oksana, eat up." As Nikolai Ivanovich expected, Oksana was in good spirits. "We had to take advantage of the moment. Daughter, I have a serious matter to discuss with you. I hope it's not about my personal life." "Young lady, you're back," and frowned his eyebrows. "That's exactly what I want to talk to you about." The man lowered his head, preparing for a flood of criticism in his address. "I'm not young anymore. You're that age too." "At what age, Dad?" "You mean a few more years and I'll be called an old maid." "Oksana, don't start. You understand that I care about you. I don't want you to spend your life alone. When I was little, you didn't care much. And I won't be alone. I have Seryoza." At that moment, the silent housekeeper hurried away. She was already aware of what was going on, and she did not want to be a witness, and even less to remind her view of Oksana's childhood among the governesses. "This is your Seryoza. Who is he anyway? You tell me. God forbid something should happen to me. Will this Seryozenka be able to provide for you properly? Or do you plan to live with him in a dormitory and get by on $3 a month? At least Seryoza really loves me. And by the way, I have an economics degree. I got it myself. So I'll be able to support myself somehow. So I've made arrangements. I see with the box, with Ernest Petrovich's son, and you'll be there. Otherwise, you'll have to start providing for yourself sooner than you think. You understand me?" The man tapped his palm on the table. His daughter was no longer listening. She ran up the stairs to the second floor and slammed the door, shutting herself in her room. Oksana opened the window wide and greedily inhaled the evening air. She felt her heart return to its usual rhythm as well. The girl flopped down on the bed and pulled out her phone. There was no message from Sergey. She opened the social network and, flipping through the newsfeed, soon heard a persistent knock on the door. "Oksana, don't you dare slam the door when I'm talking to you." My father's voice sounded menacing and commanding, and to be in address tomorrow, not as a barn can. "Can you hear me?" The girl jumped out of bed and walked over to the music player. She pressed the power button and cranked the volume to maximum. The room was filled with the sounds of the doodle and the noise and the sea. "I can't hear you." "Dad, I'm meditating." The phone in his hands interrupted. Finally, Seryozha finished and was ready to chat with her. The boy informed her that he would not be able to see her today, but would be happy to see her tomorrow. The girl flipped off the phone and rolled her eyes. Fine, there would be something to do to avoid going to a boring sit-down with Eric's parents. Oksana remembered meeting Eric at one of the parties at the institute. He was so drunk that he could barely stand on his feet, and later Oksana saw him hitting on two twin girls from the parallel group. When the party was over, she saw her in the bushes at the exit. He seemed to be throwing up. The girl's mayor shuddered at the memory. The orange sun was broadcasting the approaching sunset. Oksana stood at the closet and chose an outfit. Among the many bags of cotton clothes hung several new dresses in slipcovers. "It wouldn't have been nice to give my father a ride." Ernest Petrovich was a normal man, but his wife was a real bitch. She certainly couldn't keep quiet and put in her 0.05 R about bringing up Oksana. The girl pulled out a red floor-length dress with a high cut on the right leg and put it on. Looking in the mirror, she remembered how one of the shows showed a pig show, and one of the winners was wearing a bright red ribbon. The girl sat down on the bed and pulled out her phone. The dress sank painfully into her sides, making light noises. Oksana went on social media, typed in a search for Jaresko. The last pictures showed him at a club with naked girls. The previous ones had a photo of him on a sandy beach where he was sitting in a lotus pose, and the caption at the bottom was "Transforms Reality." Oksana poked and closed the app. The only thing Yurik could transform was his father's money in hangouts. The girl tossed the phone on the bed and stood up. Finally, she managed to breathe a full breath. Anna unzipped and tossed the hated dress to the floor. "Well, no, she's not going to socialize with that jerk." Oksana pulled a comfortable gray tracksuit out of the closet and cowered in it. A familiar honk sounded at the gate, looked out the window. Oksana saw Sergey's car. The girl hastily gathered her hair into a high bun and ran down the stairs, pulled on comfortable sneakers from a well-known brand. She jumped out onto the street and headed for her expected boyfriend. The car raced along the highway, soon turning toward the park. Seryozha, can you imagine, in general, in the XX1 century, and such medieval laws? Oksana's voice rose from indignation. "He wants to bring me to the show, like some kind of exhibition chapel. I feel like some kind of asset. I think you're being dramatic. I think your father's worried about you and wants to make a comfortable existence for you. Since it's a possibility, it's an impossibility. It's a failure. The guy's like Adar. Have you tried talking to your father?" The guy pointed the car into the parking lot. "It's no use. He doesn't listen to me. Anything at all. He threatens to deprive me of my money." That's the end of the conversation. The couple got out of the car and, holding hands, stepped onto the walking path. "Sergey, why are you defending my father? Aren't you worried that he wants to marry me off to another man?" "I'm not defending him. It's just that it's understandable that he wants the best for you. And let's be honest, you're used to a high standard of living. What can I give you from my cab driver's salary? I love you, so I want you to be happy too. And you think that I can only be happy with money." The girl jerked her hand away from the guy, suspiciously, or something, meditating. "I, by the way, am so conscious of the world in general, that money has no value to me at all. The girl pressed her lips together resentfully and turned away. You're very good, Oksana. By the way, remind me, how much did your last portrait cost? 200,000 for a week. By the way, that's not much for such an event. Well, that's for sure. Only I would have had to save up for it for a year. The guy tried to look into the girl's eyes. You know what I mean. I see what you mean. You think I'm a spoiled brat too. You know what, fine. Take me to the goddamn restaurant. Then, the old car started after the third time. The radio host's voice came through the speakers. It's spring, which means it's time for a change. And we play a song by a movie group. According to Oksana's offended look, she stubbornly looks out the window and does not turn around. Sergei concluded that he was unable to get his point across. Wanting to make up with his lover as soon as possible, he took her right hand by the arm, while his left hand remained on his arm. Oksan misunderstood me too. I just don't want your father to be mad at you if he puts you under house arrest again. Then we won't see each other again for a long time. Maybe it's for the best. You won't have to suffer the thought of how much money it takes to make me happy. But don't start. You know how much I love you, right? I know. By the way, what time is it? And I think you forgot your phone at home. Oh, I think I'm completely late. Nikolai Ivanovich listened to a series of unanswered questions. Gutkov. His daughter did not pick up the phone. He took a sip of whiskey from his glass and put it on the table, turning to his guests. I can't get through. Suddenly, something's wrong. By God, she'll drive me to my grave one day with her behavior. The man loosened his tie. What's the matter with them? They're young and stubborn. Do you remember what Natasha was like at her age? Oh, Ernest, are you trying to smooth things over again? Natashka, that's another matter. She was my wife, Oksana's daughter, and you know very well what kind of nerves you have to take care of the children. You're right, of course. Ernest Petrovich looked at his son, sitting at the table. The boy had spent the whole night in the club and was now treating his sick head with champagne. Well, were you able to get through? The blonde-haired woman, Ernest Petrovich's wife, spoke. No, I can't get through. A waiter came to the table. How is your evening going? Is there anything I can help you with? Yes. Yarek's table's lively. I'll have another bottle of champagne and something seafood. Bring it back later. I don't know. Make it to my liking. The waiter nodded and left. I'm going out for a smoke. Who's coming with me? I'll go with you, son. The blonde got up from the table and picked up her little purse. There was no one in the smoking room. Yarek sat down in one of the upholstered chairs surrounding the round marble ashtray and rested his head on the soft backrest. Mom, what's the point of this girl anyway? I like my life as it is. I don't think I'm ready for marriage. The guy took a drag and let out a big cloud of watermelon-scented smoke. Jarek, don't be an idiot. Family life has nothing to do with it at all. And Dad wants to merge assets with Kolya. And anyway, he's tired of cleaning up after you all the time. Hopes that maybe you'll come to your senses. What are you talking about? I'm a gift of fate, not a son at all. Well, of course, the blonde shook off the ashes of the MC and the cigarette. Your last prank, when you lost in the casino, all made a scandal. Cost him a lot of money. Oh, come on. He won't be poor. That's the kind of reasoning you do that scares him. He doesn't want all his assets to go to you when he retires. You need someone to be there for you, to help you. He trusts Kolya. They're young friends, after all. And his daughter is a man of character, but she is not so bright as to lose it all for clubs. She looked reproachfully at her son. Unlike you, another cloud filled the room. So if it doesn't work out with Oksana, what then? Then he'll turn everything over to the board, and you and I will stay on the allowance they'll give us. I mean, we don't set the amount of that allowance. The woman stubbed out her cigarette, put it in the ashtray, and it was so dull. Mom. By the way, I heard that Oksana is with some guy who works as a loader or a cab driver. A worker, in general. so the prospect of content should worry you even more. The woman stood up, and you headed straight to the back. To the door, let's go. And be kind. Try not to get drunk. Yarrick, and gave the last oyster decanter of whiskey finished, and Faith nervously looked at the elegant gold watch on his wrist. Well, it was not a bad time at all. Ernest Petrovich's face reddened from the drink, and his eyes shone like two olives. He patted Nikolai on the shoulder, trying to cheer him up and upset him about the behavior of his friend's daughter. Yes, you'll say that. I wanted to make everything beautiful, you know. Oksana, what is not listening? Nikolai, but you spoiled her once. Of course. Blonde's voice sounded irritated, and each word came out separately from the others. Verochka, what is it? Ernest Petrovich's red face stretched into a smile. What I know, if you get me right, get me right. Okay, we've known you for 100 years. What if it was other people? You realize how embarrassed you'd be. You can't even control your daughter. Verochka, don't start. Oh, Ernest, leave me alone. The blonde waved her husband off and crossed her arms over her chest. Well, really, we've been preparing all day. Anna ran a hand through her beautifully styled hair. We canceled our plans. So, just a waste of time. Iruchka. No, Ernest, she's right. I'll get her. The man lightly tapped his fist on the table. The unsuccessful matchmakers left first. Nikolai Ivanovich waited for a message from his driver that he had already arrived and went outside. The fresh evening air had his eyes watching. As he blinked to himself and looked out for the driver's car, he noticed a familiar old car parked outside the restaurant. He had seen it more than once in front of his house. It couldn't have been a coincidence. This Serioza would never be able to afford dinner at such a restaurant. In the front seat did not seem familiar to the figure in the gray fat girl. Oh shit. The blood boiled in the man's veins. He clenched his fists and headed for the car. He jerked the door handles, but as if by chance it jammed. What kind of Kalima was this? The man had to pull the handle several times before the door opened. Oh, there you are, my daughter. Sorry, I forgot my phone at home. You forgot your phone and you're talking. It doesn't matter. Nikolai Ivanovich's voice sounded fake kind. Let's go. My car is here. I'll take you to the place where you forgot it. Dad, Serioza will take me. I'm just late. I said quickly get in my car. The man chided me. His daughter's behavior pissed him off. No matter what you say, cut off. And that beggar is sitting there with him. He's showing his temper. I, by the way, blushed for you all evening. Hello, Nikolai Ivanovich. Sergei Aksanov really wanted to come. We were just late. The car let us down. It took a long time to start. Serioza, right? The guy nodded. Serioza, please, don't interfere. Go where you are going, and I'll deal with my daughter on my own. After all, she's still under my care. So you go. The man roughly took his daughter under the elbow and pulled her out of the car. She almost fell, but still managed to stand on her feet. Nikolai Ivanovich loudly slammed the door of the old car and took his daughter into his car. The courteous driver in a suit had already opened the back door for them. That was the last straw. This Sergius, who had come out of nowhere, was spoiling all the plans. We had to help him disappear. This problem could only be solved by one man, the head of security working for Nikolai. The big man assured the man that he knew how to do it. He offered several options. Nikolai Ivanovich chose the one in which the guy would lose his car. As far as he remembered from his conversations with his daughter, this Kalima he loved very much and had been saving up for it for a long time. Moreover, if he loses the car, he will not be able to work as a cab driver. That should get him out of town. Just the name of the guys my Oksana doesn't know. Otherwise, if she finds out, she'll make my life so sweet. And guys, look, no rings. I don't want her to feel sorry for him either. Otherwise you won't get rid of that rascal for sure. Of course, Nikolai Ivanovich. Just to scare him. We'll do everything in the best way. I've got reliable guys. I can vouch for them. All right, get to work. Oksana finished her meditation and hell. She drank from a clear plastic bottle of water with lemon and mint. She was determined not to put off talking to her father in a distant box. The girl ran down the steps to the first floor and found her father. He was lying on the couch, reading the latest issue of Forbes magazine. "Dad, I want to talk to you." Oksana sat down on the couch next to her father and twirled a strand of hair around her finger. "What is it?" "I need to withdraw some money from my card." The girl averted her eyes to the side a little bit. "How much and for what?" "Oh, it's for one good thing. 1,200 or so." Oksana tried very hard to say it casually, but her voice treacherously shook. "What kind of case is so good?" "Some kind of shamanistic course in Go again. You just got here." Dad put the magazine aside a while ago and sat up in the higher chair. "No, it's just that something happened there." "Where is it? What happened? Don't tell me you got into something." "No, Dad." Nikolai Ivanovich was interrupted by the phone. And when he read the message he received, a satisfied smile appeared on his face. "So go on. Where were we?" "Dad, I need 200,000 for a good cause." "What do you need the money for?" "Okay, forget it." The meditation effect had evaporated, and a lump of resentment came to the girl's throat. She turned away, trying to hide from her father, trailing eyes. "Oksana, God, what happened?" "Seryosa, some bandits are blackmailing her." "I thought only you could help." "Bandits? And what did he ask you for money?" "No, of course, he doesn't know. They want to take his car away from him. It'll save him the trouble, I reckon." "What happened?" "He says his car overtook him and braked right in front of him, and he didn't make it in time. And there was an accident. There were some thugs there, and now they want his car as compensation. And he works in the car. He's going to be out of a job." The girl exclaimed. "And then for sure he will go to his village. And you decided that your daddy will pay for your boyfriend, who does not know where the brake pedal is, not a cab driver. Do not invent, and do not dare to get into it. Tough times are only good for men. And don't let me hear about it again." Oksana stood up abruptly, threw her hair back, and headed resolutely to her room. Her worst prognosis had come true. Sergei wrote that the car had to be given away. Now he was going to go to the village, where he had a small house allocated to him as an orphan. Well, if so, she would go with him. The girl took a large lilac suitcase out of the closet and began to put things in it that came to hand. There was a knock at the door. Oksana quickly kicked the suitcase under the bed. If her father had realized what she was up to, he would have locked her door for sure ajar. Claudia's red-headed head appeared in the opening. The woman carefully entered the room with a stack of fresh towels in her hands. "Oksana, I'll put them in the closet. Are you going for lunch?" Anna went to the closet and opened the door. When she saw that the things hung carelessly from the hangers, and some of them were lying around, having fallen out of their places, the woman looked at Oksana surprised. In what way? But not neatness girl could not be blamed. She always had everything in its place. "Oksana, what happened?" The dear woman approached Oksana, whom she had taken care of for many years, and taking her by the shoulders, looked into her eyes. They were filled with tears. Claudia saw the corner of a suitcase sticking out from under the bed and turned to the door. Anna walked to the open door and closed it quietly. Returning to the girl, sat on the edge of the bed and invited her to sit next to her with a gesture. "Well, dear, tell me what you're up to." "Sergei, we are going to go to his village. He has problems in the city," the girl exclaimed, "and you're going to run away with him. Do I understand correctly?" "Yes. But my father, if he finds out, will for sure forbid me." "Right. Honey, what are you going to do there?" "You'll be in that village. It's boring out there. Mosquitoes and men all over the place. It's not as great as it looks. Life in the countryside is hard work. You have to work physically a lot. And you can't even cook. I don't know. I'll think of something. You don't even think I can handle it. My dear. The woman stroked Oksana's hand. I don't even allow such a thought. You'll do well at all. But it can be a hard ordeal. And what if your Seryoshka find another job in the city? Besides, it's a big step. Your father won't be happy. That's for sure. Are you sure you want to do this? I'm not sure. But I feel like if I don't do it now, I'll always be a puppet in his hands, a bird in a golden cage. He doesn't take me seriously at all. He doesn't see that I've grown up. And what does your Seryosa say? He says I shouldn't worry, we'll be fine. But that's good, if that's true. Listen, your father will probably be angry. As soon as he finds out you're gone, he'll block your bank cards first thing. So take all the cash you have. By the way, leave the cards at home, because as soon as you use it somewhere, he will immediately see your location doll. How do you know all this? I like to watch detectives. The woman grinned. And then there's something else. You remember when you were 13, I taught you how to cook. I almost burned down the kitchen then. And Oksana is the one who is very serious. Be careful. Your house must be wooden. The fire department will be here by the time they get here. Everything can already burn down. When you cook, try not to be distracted. So what else? The woman bent down and took out a suitcase from under the bed. Take some warm clothes. There may be drafts at home. They are very dangerous. And then the woman took out of the suitcase denim shorts, and after looking at them, put them back. Oksana, if you walk on the grass, you can pick up a tick. So do not open your legs. If you go to nature, Claudia, what would I do without you? Even I do not know, would disappear. The woman laughed. Okay, get ready. Oksana revised her closet and took more warm clothes so that her father would not guess too soon about her escape. She arranged for Sergei to meet her at the bus stop. When all the things were ready, Oksana took another look at herself in the mirror. Her face didn't look resolute. Rather, a mask of fear of change froze over it. The phone began to vibrate, alerting her that the guy was already standing at the bus stop. Oksana walked quietly down the stairs from the side of the courtyard. There Claudia caught up with her. The woman had a book in her hands. Oksana, take it with you. It's a cookbook. My mother gave it to me. There are a lot of simple recipes in it. Oh, Claudia, that's a very valuable gift. I thought I could get by with recipes from the internet. You can't have the internet there. Stupid. My girl, good luck. Come back soon. Thank you, Claudia. The girl held the woman tightly in her arms. Quietly opening the door in the backyard, Oksana stepped over the threshold. The door closed automatically behind her. Sergei was standing by the main entrance. He waved and headed toward her. There was a smile on his face. Oksana put her finger to her lips, indicating that he did not make any noise. The couple quickly made it to the bus station, where they boarded a long-distance bus. The girl looked out the window, shaking her leg nervously. The bus didn't have time to leave the city. How did she get the message from Oksana's father? I'm ashamed of you. You ran away like a rat without even saying goodbye. Live as you please. Next came a notification from the bank that her accounts had been frozen. Tears streamed down the girl's cheeks, and she turned away to the window. Claudia had been right. Life in the countryside was very different from the usual city life. Oksana had to learn a lot. Sergei quickly found a job at one of the firms. He left early in the morning and came back when it was already dark outside the window. Claudia was not mistaken about the internet either. He really could get it only at the local grocery store, which was a 10-minute walk from the house. So the book of recipes that she gave the girl was a real salvation. It was detailed in the minutes, what to put in, how much to fry, how much to boil, and in general, all the details. It didn't always work out the first time. For the first couple of months, they were constantly eating under burnt or salty food. But Oksana tried very hard to be a decent hostess and help Sergei. The girl recalled clips from the internet where they offered eggs, plowed toast, and avocados for breakfast. She used to love that kind of breakfast, but now it seemed like some kind of silly lie. She used to get scrambled eggs and sandwiches, tea, and porridge for breakfast. It was a good enough breakfast, but by lunchtime she was starving, since physical work required a lot of energy. At first she was afraid of getting fat, but eventually things, on the contrary, became too big for her. Their washing machine was an old-fashioned one. Things had to be thrown into a vertical centrifuge where they were washed for a while, but the spin cycle was manual. Oksana had never seen such designs before. Clothes were to be shoved between two cylinders and scrolled with a handle. That's how the water was squeezed out of the clothes. There was something about Tatiana's media drying things. Oksana outside when the weather was good. Sergei stretched the ropes and made a selection from a long wooden beam. After drying in the fresh air, the clothes smelled especially nice. Closer to summer, fresh vegetables from the new harvest began to appear in local stores and at Sunday fairs. Oksana had nothing to boast about in this regard. She tried to plant some crops in early spring, but nothing sprouted in the end. The only things that sprouted in her small garden at home were lettuce, tray, and onions. The girl once bragged about these achievements to a local saleswoman with whom she occasionally exchanged a few phrases. But she said that anywhere will sprout. Oksana was not upset by this. She looked at her young seedlings as if they were her children and was proud of every new inch of their height. Nikolai Ivanovich could not find his place. At first, when he realized that his daughter had run off with this ragamuffin, he was furious, told her silly things. Klavdia was almost fired. Veronica knew something and didn't tell them. At first he tried not to think about Oksana, even though it didn't work out very well. The man immersed himself in work, leaving in the morning, returning late at night. But age was making itself felt, and after a month the man began to suffer migraines. The body asked for rest. Then Nikolai Ivanovich returned to the old schedule, and along with the emerging hours of rest returned and thoughts of his daughter. To distract his friend, Ernest Petrovich invited Nikolai for a walk to the golf club. "No, Ernest, tell me what I'm doing wrong." I didn't really forbid her anything. She just ran away. And with whom? Oh, if only for the sake of whom. Cole, but you're wrong. I think she showed fortitude. She had to dare to go to some deaf village from under her father's wing. Well, she didn't just go out of the blue. As I understand it, something happened to this guy there. Oh, don't even remind me. See, the girl's all grown up. What's the big deal? Honestly, I hope that she'll stop playing these games soon and come home. I'm worried about how she's doing. God, she's like a hothouse in my house. I have never been out in nature. I've never seen any of her erythrocytes on the islands. What do they eat? I'm afraid to imagine. The man laughed. That's the kind of thing a personality would play into your hands. The man sighed heavily and sat down on a nearby bench. Ernest, how are you pale? Blood pressure. Shall I call for a nurse? No, that's okay. Let's just sit for a while. I don't like the way you look. What's wrong with you? Cancer. My man is powerless. He puts his head down and closes his eyes. Just found out the other day. How come? Is there anything you can do? Yes, there is. The doctors say I should have an operation, but I haven't made up my mind yet. What are you waiting for? Yeah, I'm afraid of surgery. I don't know. Haven't even told the old people yet. What about now? What should I do? Why don't you give me a ride home? I have these attacks sometimes. It's like my whole body hurts, but after an hour it goes away. The news of his best friend's illness settled even more anxiety in Nikolai Ivanovich's heart. The man feared for the health of his daughter. Fortunately, through his connections, he quickly found the address where she lived and sent his driver there. He returned, said that the house where Oksana lived flimsy in the yard some 3 miserable saplings, and in general the picture looks bleak. He saw the girl herself only glimpsed when she cooked in the kitchen window, but he had to hide so as not to be seen. Well, if there is such a gloomy picture, it means that the daughter is sure to return soon. However, 2 months later nothing had changed. Oksana was gone and sent on a reconnaissance. The driver said that it seems that everything is not going well. He saw that a small plot with townships covered with even rows of sprouts in the yard, drying laundry. Around the plot, the apple trees were snagged. Could the daughter really manage such a life? Here's everything in the mother. On the one hand, Nikolai Ivanovich was somehow even proud of his daughter, but on the other he was disappointed. He saw her life very differently. So many years working, not knowing sleep and rest, deprived himself of the opportunity to see her grow, all to provide the easy life he never had. And now that she will live in the village, weeding beds and outrageous serioza, indignation of a man has reached such a limit that he decided to go himself to the village and explain everything. Sergei in person, since he is so impenetrable. The drum of the washing machine emitted a gramophone and stopped. Oksana put aside the vegetables, went to see what happened. There was no external change, but the drum did not want to spin. The girl pressed the power button twice, but that didn't help either. Serioj, with the washing machine, something voice came from the far room, where the guy was diligently fixing something, not spinning. Let me take a look. Serioj appeared in the kitchen with a stool in his hands. I'll put it here, but don't sit on it. There's a leg is not yet fixed. Why does it smell so good? I'm making soup. I'm definitely going to make it this time. The guy gently kissed Oksana and began to inspect the washing machine. Oksana, I do not want to upset you, but it looks like we will have to take it apart into two things in the meantime. Give it here. The girl reached for the large metal basin all hooked up. Her eyes went black, and she almost fell over. Sergei, seeing this, managed to pick her up. Hey you, what are you sick? It seems to be all gone. Probably from hunger. I'm already hungry. Watch me. Don't you dare go. The boy took the basin from her hands, and with the help of long wooden chips, shifted the things out of the hot water. The result was a huge pile of colorful wet rags. Oksana grimaced. It looked ugly. To top it all off, it smelled strongly of laundry detergent. The girl decided that they overdid the amount of partial product. Her stomach let out a hungry groan. And Oksana quickly returned to cooking. In the frying pan, the vegetables grumbled. The potatoes had already gone into the pot of water. Damn it. Sergei swore and jumped up from his knees. He clutched his arm and paced back and forth, bending in half in pain. What happened? I cut myself. You should have cut yourself. Serioj, we need to treat the wound. But as I see it, the boy held out his hand and clenched his fist. The wound was deep. We have to treat it. You got a lot of dirt around it, don't you? Don't worry about it. I'll wash it right away. It'll be all right. We'll just have to rewrap it. The girl opened her medicine drawer and pulled out a bandage. Look, there's also rubbing alcohol. Let us fake it, but there's nothing else. Maybe peroxide. We're not all out. We'll have to use rubbing alcohol. Oksana took out a dark vial and opened it to smell it. Ugh, definitely alcohol. Go outside. It stinks in here right now. A jet of cold water washed away most of the dirt, but I still had to treat it. Sergei decided to get away from the kitchen window, so Oksana wouldn't see how much it would hurt him. So he went around the corner. Alcohol got into the open wound. From the searing pain, Sergei forgot for a second who he was and where he was. At that time, a black Mercedes stopped at the gate of the house. Oksana saw the car when her father was already standing at the front door. The girl was confused with excitement and hurriedly turned off the frying pan. She went to the door, swung it open. On the threshold stood her father. She took a step back, not sure what to say. Well, what are you going to invite into the house? Father. Yes, of course. Daddy, come in. Oksana stepped away from the door and watched her father in an expensive suit enter the kitchen. It looked so out of harmony that at that moment the whole house began to seem half destroyed. Her father furrowed his brow as he contemplated the dwelling. So that's how you got your daughter settled in. Well, well, it's a nice place you've got here. The man looked at the pile of wet laundry and smirked. It's our washing machine broke down. Seryosha is fixing it. Oksana looked at him apprehensively. She was glad to see her father, but his face did not look friendly. The girl did not know what to expect from him. At that moment, Anna smelled Gorilov. She turned to the stove. With horror, she realized that she had mixed everything up by turning the power on to maximum. The carrot turned into a black flame. Gray smoke enveloped the kitchen. Oksana hurriedly turned off the comforter, making sure she did everything right this time. She opened the window to air it out. The kitchen now smelled of laundry detergent. Intervened, burned Steve. How's it going, daughter? Nikolai Ivanovich watched this kitchen collapse with a pleasant sense of satisfaction. Maybe you should not have called in advance to warn you about your visit, because it seems that I'm not on time. Only you cannot call in, this wilderness network does not get. And you don't call your father. I'm mad at the old man. The man took the first stool he could find and sat on it. Daddy, it's okay. I'm just cooking and the washing machine's broken. It's a mess. But I can see that. A smile appeared on Nikolai's face. And where is Seryoshenka? Hello, Sergei appeared in the doorway with a rewound hand. He took a step forward, entering the kitchen, and with him penetrated the strong smell of alcohol. Wow, Seryozh, is it because of her striptease? No, not at all. I just hurt my hand. Oksana realized that she could not breathe. The scent of alcohol complemented the other unpleasant smells, creating a horrible mix. The girl felt her saliva intensifying, and a nauseating feeling came up to her throat. Wasting no time, she ran to the bathroom. She vomited in her stomach and was relieved. When she came to her senses, washed her face with cold water and came out, greeted by the concerned faces of her father and fiancé. I must have eaten something wrong. Oksana timidly fixed her hair pops. I'm glad to see you. I'm sorry we had such a mess. Things didn't go according to plan today. Oh, my darling, don't be silly, as long as you're healthy. Nicholas was cutting her on the chair, holding back the urge to rush to his daughter. Oh, Daddy, that chair. Oksana didn't have time to finish her sentence as the leg of the chair sagged and the man fell to the floor. A tense silence hung in the air. It is broken. Nikolai Ivanovich looked at his daughter in confusion. He could not restrain himself and laughed. But Oksana, do you see me in the grave? One day Oksana and Sergei rushed to lift the man. It's been a long time since I've experienced something like that. Okay, let's talk about how you live here. Yeah, not bad. I've got some lettuce growing over there. She pointed her finger to the window, to the flat green beds. That's what made you sick. But no, Dad. It's all right, really. I meditate when I do it, and it's organic. But it's good, of course. The man turned his gaze to his daughter's bow. But you, Sergei, what's your story? We don't really know each other. Tell me about yourself. The boy brought the man another chair, the sturdiest one he had in his house. Oksana brewed tea with mint and poured it into mugs. So, Seryozh, tell me about your parents. Well, I don't know my father, and my mother died when I was little. I was 3 then. She was hit by a car, and they couldn't save her. I'm sorry. No, it's okay. I don't really remember her. So who raised you? Do you have any relatives? No, I'm not sure. Sergei put the mug of tea on the table. I guess they would have found me if there was someone. But after my mom died, I went to the orphanage and grew up there. By the way, I got the house as an orphan. It wasn't much. The man took another look at the flimsy buildings. I'm not complaining. A lot of people don't even get that, even those who live with their parents. You're right. He nodded and sipped his tea, remembering how he and his friend had shared a small room with bedbugs in the dorm. What was your mother's name? What was your last name? Maybe we can look for your relatives. Elena Savalieva. I don't know who I can find these days. And do I really need to? My boyfriend took Oksana's hand. Do you have someone to take care of? Hearing the name of Mother Sergius, The man looked intently into the boy's face and suddenly hurried to get ready for the exit. Oksana thought he knew something. What's wrong? Are you already leaving? Yes, Oksana. Why should I interrupt you? You have so much to do because of me. Come on, be good. Stop playing Romeo and Juliet. Go back to town. We'll think it over, my daughter. Nikolai Ivanovich came up to his daughter and hugged her. I miss you. Come back, Sergei. The man shook the guy's hand and ran out the door, quickly heading for his car. What was he doing? The guy didn't think their meeting would end this way. The guy didn't think their meeting would end so soon. I don't know. Maybe he remembered something. Seryoza, now there's something more important. I think I'm pregnant. As soon as the phone showed signs of a cellular network, the man dialed Ernest Petrovich's number. While the phone rang, he loosened his tie and unbuttoned the top button of his shirt. Hello, Ernest. How are you still alive? What's the matter? You look worried, Ernest. This guy Sergei, I found out who his mother is. You wouldn't believe it. At first I thought it was a coincidence, but then I look at him, and he looks just like a little copy. Well, maybe it's just my imagination. Still, of course, I was worried when I saw Oksana. It could have seemed faster. I'm not going to die. Not knowing this secret, the man coughed into the tube. In short, I tell it like it is. His mother is Elena Sadaleva. It could be a coincidence. The man's voice got lower. Maybe, but only I looked at him more closely and realized that he was you when you were young. There you go. That's what I thought. Don't you remember? Lena wasn't pregnant at the time. I mean, he's the right age, of course. I don't know what to do now. Order a DNA test. Have them do it. You'll know for sure. That's a good idea. What about Lena? Where is she? Yeah, she died in a car accident. That's a ring. Thanks for calling. 2 weeks later, Ernest Petrovich received the test results. Sergei turned out to be his son. The man was shocked by this news and rushed to the village to meet him. When his mother abruptly opened the door and walked into the room, Yarek knew at once that things were bad. There was a look of anger on her face. The boy quickly turned down the poker page and turned away from the computer. Mom, did something happen? Something happened, Yarek. The woman went to the window and opened it, breathing in the fresh air. What happened, my son, is that your father found his own son. And now he went to meet him. How's that? What son? Like this. When I met him, he was dating a girl named Lena. But he ended up staying with me. And this Lena girl, apparently, was already pregnant. Oh, what will happen now? The woman covered her face with her hands. Mom, what are you so worried about? He lived his whole life with us. Are you afraid that he clinks and leaves? But he loves you. Oh, Yarek, don't be silly. I'm not afraid that he'll leave me. Especially Lena is the one who died. The woman turned to face her son and crossed her arms over her chest. It's just all we have. Makes you question everything, you know. I don't understand. I think you're winding it up. The guy took a grape, a wine from the fruit vase on the computer table, and popped it in his mouth. Do you need a distraction? Let's go to the spa, let's go. Yarek, well, who are you, such an idiot? If he has a native son, then think about who gets the whole inheritance if your father dies. What do you mean? The guy sputtered out in his chair. What you heard, you're not the native son. So you have less right to an inheritance than your own son. Especially knowing Ernest. He's such a kind man. He's sure to be tormented with conscience for not knowing about his son for so many years. He'll try to make it up to you. He won't throw him out on the street, will he? No, of course not. But we don't know his son. Who knows what's on his mind? If Ernest dies, we don't know what will happen to us. What are we going to do? The woman fingers in the white of her hair. We must get rid of him. Yarek, don't be silly. Do you think you're a murderer? You don't have to kill anybody. Okay, don't worry too much prematurely. Maybe they're not an executioner. Is that even a thing? We'll act as we go along. A couple of days later, Ernest persuaded Sergei to come visit. All morning he was enthusiastic. What hadn't happened to him in a long time. Jarek watched his non-native father's behavior, and his upbeat mood annoyed the lad. For 2 days now, all he talked about was his wonderful son. Ernest asked Eric to find some common ground with the boy. The mother had been drinking these 2 days, and now her face was slightly audition. She booked a massage service, and the young t-shirt closed with her in the big bathroom. My father sat in the living room, drank coffee, and occasionally got up and went to the window that gave him a view of the yard, looking out the driver's car. Jarek went into his room, figuring out what to wear. Decided it would be nice if the new potential family member liked him. He pulled out his lucky fatty, which had Vegas 2015 written on it in black rhinestones. He had won it in Las Vegas the first time he was there and believed it brought him luck. Walking out into the hallway, Jarek ran into the counter, who had finished his treatments and was about to leave. "Well, tell me what I look like." The guy twirled everything in front of the tired girl. "You look great." The girl fixed a large amount of space and supplies and smiled shyly. "May I pass? Would you like to stay with us for dinner?" "Thank you, Yaroslav, but I have another client waiting for me." "Wow, businesswoman. What a girl." Jarek came close to the girl and whispered in her ear, "The next time I do not plan anything." She said nothing after that, and with her head to the side, jumped past him. How uptight are these girls? You can't even make a joke. The boy ran down to the first floor and approached his father. "Dad, well, when will your frog in a box race arrive?" Jarek unknown. "I think it will be soon. There's already lunch set up in the backyard. I'm starving. I'm hungry. Oh, look at this. Here come the guests." The metal gates slowly parted in different directions, and the driver's car drove onto the property. Father became, walking to the center of the room, and looked up to the second floor. "Verochka, he's here. Where are you?" Her mother's voice rang out, and then she herself appeared at the steps of the second floor. She was wearing an elegant white suit. Her blonde hair was styled in light waves, and she wore a gold-rimmed watch, beautifully accentuating her golden tan. "Verochka, you look gorgeous." Her father gave her a hand as she walked downstairs, and they walked toward the main door. Jarek kept up with the sunsets. "Who's got the fatties?" He followed his parents along the wide stone-paved path. A slender guy of medium height approached them. He was dressed in all gray and inconspicuous Syriosha. His father spread his arms in greeting. "How glad I am that you have come. Meet my family." He hugged the boy tightly and introduced him. "This is Verochka, my wife. This is Yaroslav." My son Yaroslav nodded hello. "Syriosha, I hope you're hungry." We asked for a table to be set in the backyard, and Veronica didn't dare embrace the unknown guy, and a blush played across her face. With a gesture, she invited everyone to come to the table. The acquaintance went well, and even too well. Father Sergius was as if they were on the same wavelength. Light white wine relieved tension, and conversations flowed like a river. Ernest and Sergei picked up on each other's jokes and were like two peas in a pod, one still young and the other, unfortunately, old with wrinkles and dying. In the evening, when Sergei left, Jarek grew gloomy and decided to switch from wine to something stronger. He went down to the wine cellar, went to the cabinet where the whiskey was kept. The guy was just holding a bottle with a coat of arms in it, when behind him a mother's voice rang out, and I got a drink. The mascara on the woman's eyes was slightly smeared. "This is the end." "Jarek, have you seen how they communicate?" "Yes, I did." The guy exhaled and gulped the drink from his whiskey glass, OBJ, lips, and spilled all the warmth inside. "We need to get rid of him. Sonny." After Sergei found out that his beloved was pregnant, he insisted that they return to the city. At first, Oksana refused. She tried to explain that she liked living away from the city, and she was already used to her Greeks with salad. But after one rainy day, she got soaked through the other one. The girl gave up. All evening, Sergei fought her off for hours, just so she wouldn't get sick, and nothing would happen to the baby. Her father insisted that they live with him and gave them the right wing of the house. All the things fit in one car sent by her father. Oksana persuaded Sergei to take at least one bush of lettuce with him. She prepared a large pot and carefully transplanted the plants there. The girl asked to remain silent about the pregnancy for now. She wanted to settle down to ordinary life first, and Seryoja's father found common ground after all. Oksana spent a lot of time with her father Claudia, and Sergei often went to Ernest Petrovich, often staying with him until the evening. Accents, you must miss your earrings. He was at Ernest's all day. They were already pulling up to the house when my father decided to strike up a conversation. Well, I miss him, of course. Well, what can you do? I can understand him. I've been alone all my life. And here's such news. Ernest Petrovich is also preparing for an operation. Who knows how everything will go? It's good that you understand, daughter. The only thing I'm worried about is that Yerek is always around. I don't like him. He's so sneaky. Don't think about him. You know, I decided to make you happy. I've got a surprise for you. Wow. What is it? You'll see for yourself. The car drove into the gate of the house, and Oksana saw the animation in the backyard. Workers in orange uniforms flashed by. What's that over there? Hopefully not just frogs. If anything, outgrew that idea about 15 years ago. No, the man laughed. I'll show you. Oksana hurriedly jumped out of the car as soon as it stopped and headed toward the backyard. When she got closer, she saw that the workers were digging beds for her. I thought you might want to grow your own lettuce here. Her father put his arm around her shoulders. Dad, thank you. That's very sweet. There were tears in the girl's eyes. Oh, I thought you got a phone call. Right. Oksana took the phone out of her jeans pocket. It's Seryoja. After a minute of talking, Oksana went down to the lawn. Sev, right on the grass. Daughter, what is it? You're white as a wall. The man ran to the door to the house and called out to the housekeeper. Claudia, bring some water. Oksana is sick. Daddy Seryoja is in the detention center. What do you mean? What for? They say they found illegal drugs in his possession, but I don't understand. He's not using. Oksana, drink some water. Claudia brought the glass to the girl's pale lips. Daughter, I'll do everything in my power. Mom, I've made up my mind. Yerek ran into the hall and found his mother with a glass of wine in her hands. What have you decided, son? I did everything. That Seryoja is no longer a problem for us. Pour it. I need to celebrate too. Wow, my darling. But that's great. The woman took out a second glass on a long, thin stem and filled it with red wine. And the father what? They have already started the operation. Tomorrow he should come to his senses. And how did you get rid of the guys? Yeah, I got a guy I know. They planted some illegal white powder on him. Took some expense, of course, to get the dosage right. But it was worth it. Now he's doing a lot of time. You did good, son. Women's jitters. And from the beer, still from the glass, a few drops spilled on her white blouse, and he cannot get out. What if his mother decides? He won't even know it's me. Besides, I know so many people there. Nobody can get him out of there. He's totally screwed. That's fine. My son, what a good boy you are. The woman hugged her son, and he felt the drunken warm breath on his neck. As long as you're doing well. That's all I want. Tears glistened in my glassy, drunken eyes. Mom, it's time for you to go to bed. Come on, let's go. I'll show you out. Ernest Petrovich regained consciousness only 4 days later. The doctors said that the operation was a success, but he was very weak. When Derek and his mother entered the room, he was even confused. He had never seen his father in such bad shape. Various catheters and tubes were connected to him. His skin was pale gray, as if there was no life left in him at all. The man struggled to open his eyes and tried to sit up, but a nurse standing by the bed stopped him. "Verachka, Yerek, you came. Ah, Ernest, you are still so weak." The woman came up to her husband and stroked his forehead. "And where is Serioza?" "He is in the corridor." The blonde hesitated and sunk her gaze. Father, forgive us." Yerek came closer and sat down so that he could hear better. "We could not find him. He's been on a binge for the last few days. Guess the kid got a taste of the money." "I'm sorry, Pop." "How come?" "He turned out to be such a nice guy. He'll be able to call Kolya. I bet he knows something. We already called Dad. I'm sorry you were so wrong about him. But at least Mom and I are here. That's for sure. They're my family." The man tiredly closed his eyes and fell asleep. Veronica stroked her husband's hand goodbye, and they left the room. "Yarek, he doesn't look well. I have a bad feeling about this. Maybe, on the contrary, everything is working out for the best." Ernest Petrovich's condition worsened, and he was no longer allowed to see him. A few days later, Veronica received a call from the hospital. She was told that her husband had fallen into a coma. Upon hearing the news, Yerek opened a bottle of champagne. The guy turned on some electronic music in the living room and put on his Lucky Fatty. But everything worked out in the best possible way. He handed the woman the filled glass. "Don't be a jerk. It's not time for champagne yet." "Well, don't be sad. I've already poured. I'll be an old widow now. Who needs me if Ernest dies? What are you so upset about? We'll find you a new bridegroom, some young chaka. You'll travel all the time." The woman imagined herself on a sandy Caribbean beach in the arms of a swarthy surfer. She sighed heavily and drank her glass in a gulp. When Jurek opened his eyes the next day, his head cracked open. His mouth was dry. His nose was stuffy. He realized he had stayed asleep on the couch, never made it to his bed. "Yarek, my son." Mom was coming down hard from the second floor. She was so warm and wrinkled that she looked 10 years older. "Son, I have some bad news. I just got a call from your father's lawyer." The woman poured herself a glass of water from draining it in a volley. "He's thought of everything, Ernest. He's ahead of us." "What do you mean?" "Oh, my head hurts." She sat down in a deep chair by the window and wiped her face with her palms. "He wrote a will in the event of his death. His entire inheritance goes to his own son. Don't look, that's how it's all certified. I already found out. Damn it, when did he have time? Only if Sergei is in prison. Then he'll get all his inheritance when he's done, and we'll be left with a hole in the ground." The woman folded a circle of her fingers and put it to her eye. "That's it, Sonny." Yaroslav sat down on a high bar stool and pounded his fist on the table. The old man always liked to overreact, and even now lying in a coma, overtook him. "We have to let the bastard go. Everything was going so well. You're lucky we found out about it in time. If the lawyer hadn't called, we'd be out on the street." A black Mercedes pulled up in front of a gray building with bars on the windows. A door opened in a tall gate, and Sergei stepped out. Oksana noticed that he had lost a lot of weight during this time. She rushed towards him and concluded him in an embrace. "Serioj, I missed you so much." "How did I miss you? We tried everything we could to get you out. I don't know who set you up, but it was some serious people. My father pulled all his connections, but there was no result. Thank God it's over. How's the baby doing?" "What baby?" Nikolai Ivanovich only had time to reach the couple in love. "Dad, this is probably not the best place for such news, but I'm pregnant." The next few months flew by unnoticed. Sergei visited his father, who was lying in a coma, almost every day. He longed for his parent, with whom he had become so close, and immediately he could lose him again. Oksana, meanwhile, was busy organizing a wedding. The girl decided she did not want a feast for the whole world and decided to organize everything around the house. She had no idea where to place the stage with the musicians. After all, she had planted her backyard practically with all kinds of plants. Fortunately, Ernest Petrovich came to his senses after all. He was happy to see Sergei and said that he heard him talking to him and telling him what he was going through now and how his childhood was going. Oksana did not believe it at first, but Sergei said that his father suggested the wedding at his house. There was a bigger plot there. After Ernest Petrovich came to his senses and learned that his wife and son had not visited him, he asked them to move into an apartment that he had inherited from his parents. Repair there, of course, was not according to the latest fashion scent, but it was livable. Thank you for watching to the end. If you like the story, please support me with the thumbs up button. It's one click for you, and it means a lot to me. Thank you in advance.